The crowd's roar turned to stunned silence as Victor belted out the final note of his original song about loving Raymond, his secret boyfriend, only to have the club owner storm the stage and yank the mic from his hands. In that moment, Victor's world crumbled. But little did he know, his voice was about to ignite a firestorm across New York that would redefine his life forever. Security dragged him toward the exit while scattered applause mixed with boos echoed behind him. Phones were already out, recording the chaos. Victor's heart pounded so hard he could barely breathe. He had poured everything into that song, months of late-night writing. The fear of coming out, the way Raymond's quiet smile made the world feel possible. Now it was all unraveling in front of a packed house at the Velvet Room, one of the city's hottest indie spots. The owner, a burly man named Frank with a reputation for keeping things family-friendly, shouted something about decency and contracts. Victor didn't hear the words clearly. All he felt was the burn of humiliation and the strange electricity in the air, like the whole room had been waiting for this exact breaking point. Outside on the rainy sidewalk of the Lower East Side, Victor leaned against a brick wall, guitar case at his feet, trying to stop shaking. His phone buzzed non-stop, texts from bandmates, notifications from social media. A clip of the ejection was already trending. Singer booted for gay anthem scrolled across his screen. He laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. At 28, he had dreamed of this moment for years, but not like this. Not with Raymond's name woven into every lyric. Not with his own truth spilled under stage lights for strangers to judge. A voice cut through the drizzle. "Hey, that was brave as hell." Victor looked up to see a tall man in a tailored coat, collar turned up against the rain. Raymond. They had met only 3 weeks earlier at a small open mic night in Brooklyn, where Victor played a softer set and Raymond had lingered afterward, buying him a drink and talking about music like it was oxygen. Raymond worked as a corporate lawyer downtown, buttoned up and careful, the kind of guy who kept his personal life locked behind a professional smile. Tonight he had come to the Velvet Room unannounced, sitting near the back, eyes locked on Victor the entire time. "You heard the whole thing?" Victor asked, wiping rain from his face. Raymond nodded, stepping closer so the street lamp cast soft light on his sharp jawline. "Every word. And I felt it. That song. It wasn't just music. It was us." The simple admission hit Victor harder than the ejection. For the first time that night, the knot in his chest loosened. They walked together through the wet streets, sharing an umbrella Raymond produced from nowhere, talking about nothing and everything. The fear of losing family, the weight of hiding, the tiny victories of being seen. By the time they reached Raymond's apartment in Chelsea, the viral clip had hit 100,000 views. Victor's phone kept lighting up, but he silenced it. For once, the outside world could wait. Inside, they sat on the couch with mugs of coffee, the city humming beyond the windows. Raymond's place was neat, modern, bookshelves lined with legal texts and hidden vinyl records. "I never told anyone at the firm," Raymond confessed quietly. "They think I'm the safe, straight-laced guy who closes deals. But hearing you sing tonight, it made me wonder if safe is enough." Victor reached for his hand, their fingers threading together naturally. The touch felt like the first honest thing in years. They talked until dawn, mapping out fears neither had voiced before. Victor's conservative parents back in Texas who still sent him Bible verses in every email. Raymond's older brother who had cut him off after a drunken confession years ago. The conversation wasn't dramatic. It was real, laced with quiet laughter and the occasional long silence where understanding grew without words. The next morning, Victor woke to Raymond making eggs in the kitchen, sunlight streaming across the hardwood floor. His phone showed thousands more views, comments pouring in, some hateful, many supportive, a few from big names in the music scene offering solidarity. A local radio station wanted an interview. Victor stared at the screen, heart racing again. "This could be my break or my end," he muttered. Raymond set a plate in front of him, eyes steady. "Or it could be the start of something neither of us planned. I'm in if you are." That single sentence planted the seed. Victor didn't know it yet, but the ejection had cracked open doors he never imagined walking through. As the day unfolded, Victor returned to his tiny studio apartment in Bushwick to grab clothes and his notebook. The building super gave him a thumbs up, whispering that the whole block was buzzing about the gay singer who wouldn't back down. Small victories already. But when he checked his bank app, the reality hit. The club had canceled his remaining gigs and withheld payment. Bills loomed. He texted Raymond a quick update, and within an hour Raymond replied with a simple plan. Crash at his place while they figured things out. Victor hesitated. Moving in so fast felt reckless. Yet the alternative, facing the fallout alone, felt worse. He packed a bag and headed back to Chelsea, the subway ride filled with sideways glances from passengers who recognized him from the viral clip. Raymond greeted him at the door with a key on a simple chain. No pressure. Just space to breathe. They spent the afternoon talking logistics. Raymond's firm had a big merger case coming up, and he couldn't afford distractions. Victor promised to keep a low profile, but the internet had other ideas. By evening, a producer from a popular queer podcast reached out, offering airtime. Victor accepted, nerves twisting. That night, over takeout Thai food, Raymond shared his own story. Growing up in suburban New Jersey, excelling in school to escape the whispers about his artistic interests, building a career that demanded perfection while burying the truth. I thought if I succeeded enough, the rest wouldn't matter, he said. Victor listened, really listened, seeing the cracks in Raymond's polished exterior for the first time. The podcast interview went live 2 days later. Victor spoke honestly about the song, about Raymond without naming him, about the fear that still lived in his chest. Listeners flooded the comments with stories of their own. Raymond watched from the couch, silent at first, then reached for Victor's hand during the tougher parts. "You made it sound beautiful," he whispered afterward. The support felt like a shield, but Victor knew the backlash was coming. His parents had seen the clip. His mother left a voicemail that was all tears and disappointment. His father simply stopped replying. The silence from Texas cut deeper than any shout. As weeks passed, their routine settled into something real. Mornings with coffee and shared playlists. Evenings where Victor wrote new songs inspired by Raymond's quiet strength. One night they walked the High Line, city lights reflecting on the Hudson, and Raymond admitted he had started coming out to a few close colleagues at the firm. Small steps, but steps. Victor felt pride swell in his chest. Yet cracks were forming elsewhere. An old bandmate texted accusations of using the drama for clout. A childhood friend from home posted passive-aggressive memes on social media. The world outside their apartment was sharpening its knives. But inside, something stronger was taking root. The first real test arrived with an unexpected knock at Raymond's door on a Tuesday evening. Victor opened it to find his younger sister, Lena, suitcase in hand, eyes red from the flight from Dallas. "Mom told me what happened," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I had to see if you're okay." Lena was the only family member who had ever suspected Victor's truth, but hearing it splashed across the internet had shaken her too. Raymond emerged from the kitchen, professional mask slipping into place, and offered her coffee like this was any normal visit. The three of them sat awkwardly in the living room while Lena grilled Victor about the song, about Raymond, about what came next. "I love you, Vic, but Dad's not handling it. He canceled the family reunion. Mom's praying every night." Her words landed like stones. Victor felt the old guilt rise, the kid who had hidden magazines under his mattress, the teen who dated girls to keep peace. Raymond stayed quiet, letting the siblings talk, but his hand found Victor's knee under the table, a silent anchor. That night, after Lena crashed on the pull-out couch, Victor and Raymond lay awake in the bedroom. "I don't want to drag you into my mess," Victor whispered. Raymond turned to face him, eyes serious in the dark. "Your mess is my mess now. That's what this is." The honesty in his voice cracked something open in Victor. For the first time, he cried. Not from shame, but from the relief of not carrying it alone. Lena stayed 3 days, long enough to meet Raymond properly over breakfast bagels and see the easy way they moved around each other. She left with a hug and a promise to talk to their parents, but the visit stirred up doubts Victor thought he had buried. He threw himself into writing, scribbling lyrics about fractured families and chosen ones. Raymond, meanwhile, faced his own storm at the firm. A partner had seen the podcast and pulled him into a closed-door meeting, questioning his focus on the upcoming merger. Raymond defended himself calmly, citing his track record, but the seed of doubt was planted. That evening he came home tense, loosening his tie with sharp jerks. Victor played a new melody on guitar to ease the mood, and slowly Raymond's shoulders relaxed. They cooked pasta together, laughing when sauce splattered, the domestic moment feeling like a rebellion against the world's expectations. Social media kept exploding. Supporters sent fan art and messages of solidarity. Detractors flooded comment sections with slurs and threats. Victor's old manager dropped him, citing image concerns. Bills piled up. Raymond quietly covered the rent for the month without making it a big deal, but Victor noticed and felt the imbalance. "I can't keep taking from you," he said one morning over coffee. Raymond set his mug down. "You're not taking. We're building. There's a difference." The words lingered, shifting something in Victor's chest from gratitude to partnership. That weekend they attended a small pride event in the village, holding hands openly for the first time in public. The simple act felt revolutionary, surrounded by rainbow flags and cheering strangers. Yet peace never lasted. A week later, Victor received a call from his father, cold, measured. "Come home and fix this before you ruin everything we've worked for." The ultimatum hung in the air. Victor hung up without answering, but the conversation replayed in his mind for days. Raymond suggested therapy, a neutral space to unpack the guilt. Victor agreed reluctantly, and their first joint session peeled back layers neither had expected. The counselor asked about identity, about love as choice versus destiny. Raymond spoke of his fear of losing the career he had sacrificed everything for. Victor admitted the song had been his way of screaming the truth he could no longer swallow. Walking home through Central Park, hand in hand, they felt lighter, closer. The turning point came unexpectedly when Raymond's firm announced mandatory sensitivity training after a discrimination complaint from another associate. Raymond volunteered to help facilitate, citing his own lived experience. The admission spread through the office like wildfire. Some colleagues pulled away. Others offered quiet support. Victor celebrated with him over dinner at a quiet Italian spot in the West Village, toasting to small wins. But the victory was short-lived. An anonymous tip, later traced to Victor's former bandmate, leaked Raymond's name online, linking him directly to the viral singer. Suddenly Raymond's face was in the same headlines. The firm placed him on temporary leave pending review. Raymond came home that night pale, tie askew, and for the first time Victor saw real fear in his eyes. They sat on the fire escape watching the city lights, sharing a bottle of wine. "I built my whole life on control," Raymond said softly. "Now it's slipping." Victor pulled him close. "Then we rebuild together. No more hiding." The promise felt heavy but right. In the following days, Victor used his growing platform to advocate for Raymond, posting videos explaining their story without sensationalism. Support poured in from unexpected places: musicians, lawyers, even a few politicians. Raymond's leave turned into an opportunity. He started volunteering at a legal aid clinic for LGBTQ youth, finding purpose beyond corporate deals. Victor landed a modest booking at a Brooklyn venue that welcomed his truth. Their lives were changing shape, painful but authentic. Tension peaked when Victor's parents flew in unannounced 2 months after the initial blow-up. His mother called from JFK, voice trembling. "We're here to bring you home, son. This has gone far enough." Victor met them at a neutral cafe near Union Square, Raymond insisting on coming along for support. The reunion was raw. His father refused to look at Raymond at first, focusing on Victor with lectures about sin and reputation back in Texas. His mother cried into her napkin, clutching rosary beads. Victor listened, then spoke, calmly at first, then with the same passion that had filled his song. He described the years of silence, the nights wondering if he was broken, the moment on stage when lying finally became impossible. Raymond sat beside him, steady and silent, a living example of the love they were fighting for. The conversation stretched for hours. His father stormed out at one point, but his mother stayed, asking quiet questions about Raymond's family, his job, their plans. By the time they parted, nothing was resolved, but the door had cracked open. Back at the apartment, Victor collapsed on the couch, exhausted. Raymond rubbed his shoulders. "You stood up for us. That's what matters." The affirmation meant everything. That night they talked about the future, perhaps a small tour, Raymond exploring private practice that aligned with his values. Dreams that once felt impossible now seemed within reach. Yet betrayal waited around the corner. Victor's old bandmate, jealous of the attention, sold a fabricated story to a tabloid claiming Victor had staged the ejection for publicity and that Raymond was using him for career gain. The article went viral overnight. Sponsors pulled out of Victor's upcoming gigs. Raymond's legal clinic faced donor questions. The pain of the lie cut deep, reopening old wounds of trust. Victor confronted the bandmate over the phone, voice shaking with anger and hurt. "You were supposed to be family." The response was cold. "You changed the rules first." Raymond, ever the lawyer, suggested legal action but ultimately advised against it. More publicity would only feed the cycle. Instead, they chose silence and truth-telling on their own terms. Victor posted a raw video addressing the claims directly, Raymond appearing beside him for the first time publicly. The response was overwhelmingly positive, drowning out the noise with messages of solidarity. Through the storm, their bond deepened. They attended couples counseling more regularly, learning communication tools that turned arguments into understanding. Victor wrote a new song, quieter, more reflective, about forgiveness and second chances. Raymond helped him record a simple demo in the living room, his legal precision translating to perfect audio edits. The track leaked online organically and gained traction, leading to an invitation for Victor to perform at a major Pride festival in Central Park. The opportunity felt like validation. Raymond took the day off to attend, standing in the crowd as Victor took the stage again, this time without fear. The festival day dawned bright and clear. Victor's set drew a massive turnout. When he dedicated the original song to Raymond in the audience, the cheers were deafening. Raymond watched, pride shining in his eyes, the earlier doubts fading under the summer sun. Afterward, surrounded by well-wishers, they shared a quiet moment behind the stage. "We made it through," Victor said. Raymond smiled. "We're just getting started." Summer faded into fall, and with it came new challenges that tested everything they had built. Victor's viral fame brought a record label offer, modest but legitimate, with one condition: tone down the activist elements for broader appeal. The executive's words stung like a slap. Victor turned it down on the spot, choosing integrity over opportunity. Raymond supported the decision, but money grew tighter. Raymond's temporary leave had stretched into months. The firm cited restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. He poured his energy into the legal aid clinic, helping young people navigate coming-out crises and discrimination cases. The work fulfilled him in ways corporate law never had, yet the loss of steady income weighed on both of them. Victor's family situation evolved slowly. His mother began calling more often, asking tentative questions about New York life and even requesting photos of their apartment. His father remained distant, but Lena reported small cracks. Dad reading articles about LGBTQ rights, muttering under his breath rather than dismissing them outright. One weekend, Victor and Raymond flew to Texas for a cautious visit. The house felt smaller, the air thicker with unspoken history. Dinner was awkward at first, but Raymond's easy charm, discussing football with Victor's dad, helping in the kitchen with his mom, eased the tension. By Sunday, his father shook Raymond's hand at the airport, a silent acknowledgement that carried more weight than words. The flight home felt lighter, like they had reclaimed a piece of Victor's past. Back in New York, fresh betrayal struck from an unexpected source. Raymond's older brother, the one who had cut contact years ago, resurfaced via email demanding a meeting. They met at a neutral diner in Midtown. The brother, now a family man himself, admitted regret mixed with resentment. Resentment that Raymond had made it, while he struggled with his own hidden truths. The conversation turned heated when the brother accused Raymond of dragging the family name through the mud with the viral scandal. Raymond defended their life with quiet fire, but the encounter left him drained. Victor listened that night without judgment, simply holding him through the tears Raymond rarely allowed. "Family isn't blood," Victor reminded him. "It's who shows up." The words became their new mantra. As winter approached, Victor landed a residency at a progressive club in Williamsburg. Steady gigs that paid the bills and allowed creative freedom. The nights filled with music, Raymond often in the audience, their shared glances across the room speaking volumes. One evening after a particularly electric set, a fan approached Raymond outside the venue, thanking him for being visible. The moment crystallized something for Raymond. His presence mattered beyond the personal. He began speaking at local events, sharing his journey from closeted lawyer to advocate. Victor watched him grow into the role, pride swelling with every step. The holidays brought another layer of growth. They hosted a small Friendsgiving in their apartment, inviting chosen family, Lena who flew in, clinic colleagues, fellow musicians. Laughter filled the space, stories of struggle and triumph traded over turkey and wine. Victor's toast captured it all. To the family you choose and the love that refuses to stay hidden. Raymond added quietly. And to the voices that refuse to be silenced. The evening ended with quiet conversations on the couch, plans for the new year unfolding naturally. Victor recording an EP, Raymond opening his own small practice focused on LGBTQ clients. Spring arrived with blooming cherry trees in Brooklyn and a new crisis that pushed them to their limits. Victor received an offer to open for a major artist on a national tour, exposure that could launch his career. But the contract included a morality clause that essentially required him to downplay his relationship with Raymond in public. The dilemma tore at him. Turning it down meant financial stability delayed. Accepting meant compromising the very truth that had started everything. He discussed it endlessly with Raymond over late-night walks along the East River. Raymond, now running his budding practice, urged Victor to follow his heart. "We've fought too hard to hide again," he said. Victor ultimately declined, choosing authenticity. The decision cost the tour but gained him respect in the indie scene. Bookings tripled within weeks. Raymond faced parallel pressure when his practice attracted a high-profile client, a conservative politician seeking discreet advice on a family matter. The case promised financial security but risked exposing Raymond to backlash if details leaked. He turned it down after a sleepless night, prioritizing ethics over profit. The choice aligned them even closer, proving their values were in sync. That weekend they escaped to a cabin upstate, phone signals weak, surrounded by quiet woods. No stage, no clients, just them hiking trails and talking about dreams deferred. Under starlit skies, Raymond proposed they make their commitment official. Not marriage yet, but a promise etched in a shared journal. Victor wrote the first entry. "We chose each other when the world chose otherwise." Returning to the city, they found the landscape shifting. Victor's EP dropped to critical acclaim, praised for its raw honesty about love between men. Interviews followed, each one deepening their story's reach. Raymond's practice grew steadily, attracting clients who saw him as proof that professional success and authenticity could coexist. Yet one final shadow lingered. Victor's father suffered a mild heart scare back in Texas. The call came at midnight, his mother's voice frantic. They flew out immediately. At the hospital, Victor sat by his father's bed, Raymond waiting respectfully in the hallway. When his father woke, the first words were an apology, halting, imperfect, but genuine. "I was wrong to make you choose." Tears flowed. Raymond joined them later, and for the first time, the four of them shared a meal in the hospital cafeteria, bridges mending in small, careful steps. The return flight felt like closure on a long chapter. Back home, they threw a housewarming of sorts, not for a new place but for the life they had rebuilt. Friends gathered, music played, stories were told. Victor performed an acoustic set that included the original song, now layered with new verses about forgiveness and resilience. Raymond stood beside him at the end, arm around his waist, no longer hiding. The applause that night wasn't for shock value. It was for truth. Summer brought full circle. Victor headlined a sold-out show at the original club where it all began. The Velvet Room had new ownership and extended an invitation as apology and celebration. The night was electric, the crowd a mix of old skeptics and new believers. Victor sang the song that started everything, but this time Raymond stood on stage beside him for the final chorus, their voices blending in harmony they had practiced in secret. The moment wasn't flashy. It was profound. Phones lit up not with outrage but with shared joy. Social media exploded positively, the clip spreading as a symbol of progress. After the encore, they slipped away to the rooftop, city skyline glittering. Raymond pulled a small box from his pocket, a simple ring, nothing extravagant. "Not asking yet," he said with a smile, "but promising. When we're ready." Victor slipped it on, the metal cool against his skin. They talked about the journey, the ejection that had been a beginning, the betrayals that forged strength, the family that evolved, the love that refused to break. Victor reflected on how one voice on one night had rippled outward, changing not just their lives but touching countless others. Months later, with Raymond's practice thriving and Victor's music reaching national playlists, they stood on the same stage for a charity event benefiting LGBTQ youth. The set list included every milestone song. As the final note faded, Victor looked out at the crowd. At parents hugging their kids, friends cheering, strangers moved to tears, and realized the fight wasn't over, but they had won the most important battle. Living openly, loving fully, growing together. In the end, Victor turned to Raymond backstage and whispered, "We did it." Raymond kissed his forehead. "We're still doing it." Can one voice truly change hearts in a divided society? Or are prejudices too deeply rooted to be overcome by love alone? True or false?